When we talk about a definition of anxiety, worry is in that definition all the time. But when we think about anxiety, anxiety can be good and anxiety can be bad. It just depends on if it becomes an anxiety disorder or not. So I want to touch on some things about worry and maybe look at some differences between worry and anxiety. So let's get into it. Hi, I'm Dr. Chandra Smallwood, an anxiety pharmacist, and I call myself that because I had anxiety for a very, very, very long time, and I'm a pharmacist. And soon to be a board-certified psych pharmacist. So let's get into it. So first, why do we worry? Especially when it makes us upset. Anxiety researchers define worry as a sequence of repetitive thoughts and mental images that focus on threatening issues and uncertain, possibly negative results. To make it simpler, worry is thinking about something that makes you anxious and all the ways it can go wrong. Such as when I get on a plane, because planes will always cause me anxiety probably. I picture all the things that can happen. I think about all the old stories that I've heard about planes getting into accidents, and I just think about it. Like, this could happen at any time. Even though planes don't usually crash, it may crash when I'm on it. And I keep thinking about that. So when we worry, we're doing a proactive cognitive risk analysis on something that can happen in the future, on something that may make us anxious. We try to avoid or solve potential negative outcomes in the future. It's like people want to mentally, emotionally and mentally prepare for something bad happening. It's like, well, if I don't have any expectations, then it can't be that bad, right? Or if I think it's gonna go bad, maybe it'll go better, So myth or fact, worrying is a way to keep your emotional guard up, such as the more you worry about it, the more you will be prepared or guarded, shielded from a potential negative outcome. What do you think? Let's see. But before we talk about that, let's discuss what's bad about worrying. Worrying can make things bad for any relationship: work, school, friends, loved ones, family members. Because when you worry and you try to solve something in the future, you may do something that hurts someone or relationship because you're stressed out, you're doing too much. You're talking to them in a certain type of way. Basically, worrying makes it hard for you to relax and be in a good mood. I wrote a book. It's called Silent Suicide. It's talking about anxiety and how it hurts you. Worry, bad long-term anxiety issues is deadly. It's totally unhealthy. It's keeping your whole body in alert all the time or more than's necessary. So when we worry, we have to think about those things because life is already hard enough. And what we're doing is basically making it harder for ourselves. Once when I was in college, me and my ex-boyfriend had broken up. And we lived in the same student housing. And there was a party in the student housing that night. And I was so scared to go because I was scared that I would see him there, like with a girl or talking to a girl. And he was my high school sweetheart. So, I was super, super invested, and I would have been super, super hurt. I worried about it. I didn't want to walk in. And when I got there, he wasn't there, of course. And he didn't even go. So I sat there and worried for no reason. And the worry was way worse than if I would have seen him in there. I mean, I could have just left. But I worried about it for hours instead of just seeing what happened. People a lot of times combine worry with problem solving. We think that, okay, this thing in the future, it could be far in the future, could be in a few hours. I'm going to worry about it so I can think about all these different ways I can potentially stop something negative from happening. Does that really ever work though? Very rarely. Unless we know that there's something we already had to do that we didn't do. Sometimes the negative outcome happens, even though usually it doesn't. And what? It's usually not even that bad. Usually the worrying is way worse than what could have happened. Way worse. Such like the idea of my ex at the party. Like, I'm in my apartment, you know, basically in tears, feeling so stressed that I may see this guy and he could be with another girl. So stressed out about it, like when you feel like your chest is tight type stressed. And he wasn't even there. And then if I would have seen him, I mean, then I just would have saw him, right? And it probably wouldn't have been that serious, and I couldn't have problem solved my way out of it, even though I thought about it. I couldn't have made him not go. I couldn't have made him not be with another woman if that's what he chose to do. I couldn't have made my eyes not work. Like, there's nothing I could have done, but I thought about it anyway. A lot of times the solutions from worry are not effective. Also, the worry is usually a bigger issue. The worry is usually a bigger issue than the actual event. Like 99% of the time. And that's where overthinking comes in. Like, people say overthinker. I think it's just a better way, a more acceptable way of saying worrier. Because you're overthinking, you're just thinking these repetitive thoughts and you have images in your mind of the worst case scenario, and you're just like, oh my God, if I do this. Just like, you know, wanting to be an entrepreneur, putting yourself out there. Oh my God, someone's gonna think I'm dumb. Someone's gonna think I'm unattractive. I'm, you know, as we age, we think, oh my God, I'm gonna be on video. People are gonna be like, oh my God, she looks so old and everything like that. But hey, we're old, so what? Who cares? It is what it is. So there are two types of worries. One, we worry about situations that can be problem solved. And two, situations that cannot be problem solved. So the goal or the treatment when we want to help with worry or overthinking per se is we want to know the difference between what can be problem solved and what can't be problem solved. We only want to focus on the things that we can control. If we can't control it, there's no point in worrying about it because there's nothing we can do. Like in my plane example, I'm in a plane. There's no point in worrying about it because I can't get out the plane. If it's in the air, that is what it is. There's no point in worrying about it. I might as well let God take the wheel, right? Knowing the difference between these two, I feel like is a way that more successful people live, because you don't have to spend so much time thinking about stuff that you can't control. If you can't control it, you can't control it. Either you don't get yourself in that situation, or you just don't, you don't worry about it. As hard as that seems, because that is very difficult, if we're aware, we can think about it in a different way or change our thinking, start thinking about something else instead of being stuck worrying about that thing that we can't control. If it's something that we can control, a lot of times we did something where we dropped the ball, or maybe we procrastinated, because just like a speech, if we give a speech, we know if you practice a speech 50 times, you're gonna feel good, you're gonna feel confident, you're gonna know it, or whatever. But if you don't, you probably drop the ball a little bit. If you read it one time or you wrote it and you didn't reread it again, you're gonna be up there and you may start sweating a little bit. So let's think about what we can and can't control in order to help to calm our minds and decrease worry. Let's talk about some of the difference between worry and anxiety, because there are major differences. So first, worrying tends to reside in our mind, whereas anxiety is both mental and physical. For anyone who has ever had a panic attack or anxiety attack, you know that you can feel it. You feel the chest tightness, you feel your back tensing up, you feel your heart rate increasing. Sometimes you feel the nausea. You feel stuck at times and you can't move. When we worry, we're thinking about things in our mind. You know, we have the reoccurring thoughts, or we have the mental images in our mind, but it doesn't show up any other kind of way. We're just thinking about it. Worry is more specific, whereas anxiety is generalized. So a lot of times we know what we're worried about. We're worried about getting sick. We're worried about, I bet parents are worried all the time. What am I going to do with these kids on their half day of school, which comes every 2 weeks? Dang near. How am I going to pick them up on time? Whereas anxiety, sometimes we just are anxious. We don't even know why. I used to feel like I would get anxious at times when I was relaxed. Like in the shower, I would all of a sudden have a panic attack. Like, seriously? I'm just chilling right now. I don't even know what I'm worried about. I don't know. Thoughts are just moving through my mind, and all of a sudden, I feel the physical symptoms of anxiety. Worry is usually grounded in reality, whereas anxiety is catastrophic thinking. In anxiety, we think that the world is gonna blow up. Whereas like when we worry maybe that tree might fall down. Like the scope is way smaller. When we worry, our mind is problem solving. We're trying to problem solve the potential negative outcome in the future. So it's very logical a lot of times. It's just that we continue to think about it over and over and over and think about all these different ways of problem solving, even if it's not something that we can problem solve. Whereas when we're anxious, we think that everything is effed up and everything is going to be a mess. And we're going to go outside. We're going to get hit by a car on our porch. Like, it's just, we think about the big thing. The big thing that is probably not going to happen. It's not realistic. It never happens. That's our anxiety. Worry is temporary, where anxiety is long-standing. So once the thing that you worry about passes, the worry is gone. But the anxiety can last, and that's when people have anxiety disorders. When they have anxiety, like most days out of the week for over 6 months, you probably have an anxiety disorder. You need to put a lot of effort into helping it to go away, helping it to subside. Such as when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I had anxiety. It was COVID. It had just started. We didn't know what was going on, what it was, when it was gonna end. We didn't know. We didn't know if it was from China, where it came from. What was it, Wuhan? So I had a lot of anxiety when it came to the coronavirus. And the anxiety was me and my daughter could both potentially die, which I guess could have really happened. But it was more than a worry. I couldn't problem solve my way out of it. It was anxiety. Like, my blood pressure was up. I could barely sleep. Like, it was messed up. But COVID was also the end to my anxiety, because I had had enough. That was it for me. I was like, I just can't do this anymore. It all has to change. Worry usually doesn't impair functioning, whereas anxiety does. If you're at work and you're worrying about, paying a bill or something, okay, you have a worry, but you can still go through your day. Now, if you're anxious, maybe your bank account is negative $500, and you know there's no way you can pay this bill, then you may think, oh my God, they're going to take my house, my car, my kids, my food, my clothes, everything. They're going to take it all. Everything's going to be gone. I'm going to lose everything because I can't pay this one bill. That's kind of how you would think about that. Like sometimes when people have anxiety, like times in the past when I had anxiety, you just kind of sit there and just look like you can't really do anything. Like you feel so in your emotions, in your head, in the feeling in your body. You're just like, I can't go to work. I can't take care of my kids. I can't drive. I can't do anything. So the next time you feel worry, think about it as something you can problem solve or something you can't problem solve. And if it's worth even thinking about. Especially since your health is involved even though you don't know it. So happy relaxing. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next video.